The true test of the skin is to make sure that all of this is rendered right here. So the way we get that is our technique. If you're here, it's because you love food. Let's get you to love food more. Today I'm going to show you a recipe that has been long requested across my Instagram, my TikTok. You guys see me make it all the time. I spent 3 months developing this recipe inside of a restaurant where we served it and people loved it. And it was compared to some of the best restaurants in the city. You're wondering why I got my hood on because my freaking hair looks crazy. I had like this thing shooting on the side. What the fuck is that? My hair is crazy, John. Do you see this? And we're just shooting this video anyways because I'm too excited. We got the pork belly already. I wanted to show you how to use it. So crispy pork belly is one of those things that people tend to love. Like it's that crispy crackling crust which is from the skin or the rind. I tend to find like a thick pork belly, kind of like this one here. So let's take a look here. It is a beautiful pork belly. See how thick it is? Like it's just massively thick. It's on the bone, which is probably one of my tips here is to keep it on the bone. This is gonna keep that meat nice and juicy. We have the skin on. The skin being on is important because this is the part that's gonna crisp up. If there is no skin, then you're not gonna get a crispy pork belly because this is the crust. So you've seen a couple different techniques where you get crackling pork by putting hot oil on it. I don't like that technique because I don't want to add any more additional fat to this. So what I like to do is take your pork belly, cook it in water for an hour and a half, take it out of the water, put it in the fridge, and allow it to air dry. So it's very inactive. You see that? This is nice and dry skin. Now what we're going to do is score the top. We have this pork belly here. We're gonna make some incisions on it. All I'm gonna do is go through and cut the pork belly into the strips of how thick I want to serve them in. And we're gonna do this right before we bake. So we're gonna preheat our oven to a very high temperature. My oven goes up to like almost 500 degrees. We got this super dope Nova oven back here. And we're gonna let it crank. But in the meantime, we're going to score our pork belly. One piece of advice, make sure your pork belly is at room temperature. We don't want to cook it when it's cold. So take this out of the fridge for about half an hour before you bake it. But like I said before, we're just gonna go through and we're gonna score the meat of this pork belly just through the skin because we don't want to cut all the way through the meat because that's gonna render up too much of the fat and the juices. So if you take a look here how I'm doing it, I'm basically just cutting this skin right here. Use my knife and just cut nice strips. I'm cutting them about ½ an inch thick. The reason why I do this is because at the restaurant I want to get equal portion sizes when we serve the pork, and I guess the same goes for when you're at home. You know, you can be like, oh, how many pieces of pork did you have, and then you can fight about it later. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it right down the middle so I can cut these lines. So you see that? See the strips there? Now I've just doubled how many pieces of pork belly I have. And notice I'm using a serrated knife. A serrated knife has these teeth on it, which is good for cutting bread and cutting through hard surfaces. So in this case, it's gonna cut through this nice skin. You hear it's a little crispy already? That's kind of what we want. I would go about 3 days if you can. 1 day is perfectly fine if you're doing pork belly. But if you see what we got here, we have some nice evenly cut pork. This is gonna give us a nice even portions when we're ready to serve our pork. And we're gonna be able to cut nice even strips of pork belly without breaking through that skin, and everybody's gonna get a nice piece of crispy, crunchy skin with their portion of pork. So from now, we're gonna set this aside and go ahead and preheat our oven. Our oven is now preheated. We have our pork belly here on this little tray here. So it's on a tray. Notice it's on a rack as well. This is gonna be key when you don't have the bone. I keep the bone in the pork belly because it's gonna help keep the meat juicy. That is gonna be number one reason why. And the rack is just gonna help that so we get a nice even airflow of heat throughout the pork belly, right? So we're gonna go through and we're gonna spin this around once halfway time through. We're gonna let it cook at 450 degrees for 30 minutes, and then the skin is gonna get kind of crispy. Rotate, let it go for another 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and put our pork belly in the oven. So we're gonna let that cook for about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna go on and just hang out until 30 minutes is up. So the pork belly's done. We just took it out of the oven, and we cool it down a little bit before we cut into it because I want all the juices to kind of like come back into the meat. You don't want to cut the meat right away because then it's just going to flow all the juices out. So first thing we're doing is rest our meat right when it comes out the oven, because we don't want to cut the meat while it's hot, because then it's going to kind of spill all the juices everywhere. So while that's resting, let's go ahead and prep some mise en place for a dish that I think we're going to make today. We're going to do a take on sisig and lab, which is like a Thai Filipino fusion dish. So here we are, we have some of our herbs here. We have the cilantro, we have the scallion, we have the mint, and we're just gonna go ahead and chop it up really nicely. Now I'm just like chopping it up, rough chop, make everything nice and fine. You have some garlic, go ahead, throw some garlic in here. We're gonna take all these herbs and we're gonna throw it into the bowl. I'm gonna take my scallion here and slice some nice even rounds. Just the green parts, the white parts are a little strong, so we're gonna save that for something else. We're gonna add it into our bowl. We have some grape tomatoes here as well. I'm gonna go ahead and mix that into our bowl. This is gonna be our salad. So I'm just been corrected here. The sisig is usually made with eggs, so we're gonna go ahead and egg yolk. So we're just gonna do this different style. We're gonna pan fry a sunny side egg, and we're gonna throw it on top of this. So we're making a creamy lab sisig, which I think is gonna be a cool combination of flavors. At this point, the pork belly has been rested, and we're gonna take it off the bone. It is still hot, and keep in mind we want the pork to be tender but not falling apart, so it has a nice delicious bite. There is the meat on the bone, so you can save that and definitely eat that. This is our pork belly here that we roughly chopped. You see how it's super nice and juicy. And then that skin, let's take a listen. Of course, that's crispy. The true test of the skin is to make sure that all of this is rendered right here. So the way we get that is our technique of braising it in the liquid, letting it dry, and then roasting in the oven high heat, and then rendering it down at 375. If you notice the temperature of my oven when I did this, we started up a high heat to get it crispy. We brought the oven down to get a nice like even render. And then that makes it really easy with my oven here. I got the Innova Precision oven. Basically all I can do is set the stages and the time. So with this pork belly, we did it for 475 degrees for about an hour, and then we did an hour and a half at 375, 350. So, but yeah, let's take a look at this skin here. When you pull it off, you're gonna hear this be crispy, and it's not gonna be chewy. That's like the ultimate test for the thick skin. And you see how thick that is? And this is all gonna be crunch. Let's take a look. Doesn't stick to my teeth at all. Super flavorful. Alright, so we're gonna chop it up. Boom, boom, boom. See how it's evenly portioned? I get nice, beautiful portions when I cut into it. And this is like a great restaurant serving. Everybody gets one piece of this, and then you can be like, oh wow. There are like, how many pieces of this? And it's evenly portioned. That's why I like scoring it in the beginning like we did. And we're gonna go ahead and chop it up. You hear that crunch? That is crazy. And then we're gonna go ahead and mix it in our bowl with our salad. We're gonna also use some mayonnaise, some QP. This is gonna be that sisig component, and then we're gonna use a little bit of fish sauce. This is one of my favorite brands of fish sauce here. This 999 brand. Typically any fish sauce you can find that has this 40N on it, it's gonna be like compressed with nitrogen, and it's gonna really be hot, more compact in flavor, right? We have some different toppings for our sauce. For our dressing, it's gonna be calamansi, which is a Filipino citrus, super delicious. Traditionally in Thai food, in lab we'll use lime, but today we're gonna use the calamansi to have that sisig kind of essence to it. A little black pepper is nice, never hurt. You got a little garlic in there, it's cool. And then what we're gonna do is, once it's nice and evenly coated and it tastes great, we're gonna go ahead and that's good. We'll put our sisig onto the plate. Take that egg, and then we're just gonna throw the egg on top. And then of course, I like a little extra spice. Top up some black Thai bird chilies. Just enjoy that for a little bit. And then time for that little egg yolk stuff that y'all like. Just dip that pork belly in the yolk. And then you go. You have this beautiful take on sisig lab lechon. Creamy, acidic, umami, pork. I just want to show you guys the recipe quick. So we're gonna go drop off at the family. I'll see you guys later. If you enjoyed this recipe, make sure you stick around and watch out other recipe videos. And if you want to love food more, make sure you like and comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next recipe. Thank you. Focaccia lob egg sandwich.
Yeah.
Of course that was gonna be good. But like, it's crazy because the rosemary adds like another
Another
layer.
whole
Weird.
flavor.
It's like crazy.
But it works.
Yeah.
I didn't think the olive oil.
Well, olive oil is really nice too. I think it's a little like fruity part with the egg and the herbs.
So good.
Pork belly lobster.
So good.
Man, I don't even want to give it to your family anymore.